The Quad summit may have been the highlight of Prime Minister Modi's visit, but it wasn't the only thing on the agenda. An array of bilaterals was also held today. The first one was the Modi-Biden meeting. It was held immediately after the Quad summit. Why is this important? Because this was the first in-person meeting after Russia invaded Ukraine. India's policy on this has been at odds with the American agenda, and we all know that. In fact, Biden called India's stand somewhat shaky. That's how he put it. White House officials began preaching India on where it will find itself in history books. There were warnings of significant and long-term consequences. We've reported all of this on the show. India did not give in. 4 months on, Washington seems to have agreed to disagree with India. This was amply evident in the Modi-Biden bilateral today. The US president did bring up Ukraine and the impact of Russia's actions, but refrained from drawing India in. Listen to this.
We also discussed the ongoing effects of Russia's brutal and unjustified invasion of Ukraine and the effect it has on the entire global world order. And the U.S. and India are going to continue consulting closely on how to mitigate these negative effects.
The two leaders also talked about vaccines. Biden announced the renewal of the Indo-US Vaccine Action Program, a 35-year-old bilateral program aimed at fighting infectious diseases. Now, they're going to renew it for another 5 years. The India-USA Incentive Agreement was also discussed. It's basically a pact to push American investments into India.
हमारे बीच ट्रेड और निवेश में भी निरंतर विस्तार होता जा रहा है, यद्यपि ये हमारे पोटेंशियल से अभी बहुत कम है। मुझे विश्वास है कि हमारे बीच इंडिया यूएसए इन्वेस्टमेंट इंसेंटिव एग्रीमेंट से निवेश की दिशा में कॉन्क्रीट प्रगति देखने को मिलेगी।
The second bilateral meeting of the day was between India and Australia. Prime Minister Modi met the newly elected Australian leader Anthony Albanese. This was their first official meeting. They talked about trade, about defence manufacturing, renewable energy, agricultural research, and ECTA. Now, what's ECTA? The Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement. It was signed when Scott Morrison was in power in Australia. Today, Modi and Albanese discussed ways to build on it further. So the message was quite clear. A change of guard will not affect India's ties with Australia. Next, Prime Minister Modi met 3 former Japanese Prime Ministers, Yoshihide Suga, Shinzo Abe, and Yoshihiro Mori. These meetings illustrate the goodwill and the personal chemistry that the Indian leader enjoys with these Japanese leaders. Interestingly, former Prime Minister Suga is part of a group of MPs called the Ganesh Group, an amorphous group of short-term members of parliament here, and this group is named after Lord Ganesh. In Japan, they call him Kangi-ten. It's a symbol of good fortune, just like it is in India, a solver of all problems. Prime Minister Modi is said to have appreciated Yoshihide Suga for this endeavour. He also invited the group to visit India, and this was followed by a meeting with the president of the Japan-India Association, that's Yoshihiro Mori. This association is a body to further India-Japan ties. It goes back to 1903, that's when it was established. During the Second World War, this group supported the Indian independence movement. Today it helps build people-to-people ties and investment programs between the two countries. Then came the last bilateral of the day, with the leader of the host country, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Remember, India and Japan are celebrating the 70th anniversary of their bilateral ties. So this meeting was all about the road ahead, what can be expected, partnership in manufacturing, services, agriculture, ease of doing business, and digital technology infrastructure. And these two leaders described each other as indispensable partners who remain committed to each other's progress.
कि पोस्ट कोविड विश्व में भारत और जापान की पार्टनरशिप और अधिक महत्वपूर्ण हो गई है। हम डेमोक्रेसी, फ्रीडम और रूल ऑफ लॉ जैसे मूल्य साझा करते हैं, जो हमें अपने द्विपक्षीय संबंधों को और गहन करने की प्रेरणा देते हैं।
That marks the end of Prime Minister Modi's whirlwind tour of Japan, his 5th visit to this country in the last 8 years. It shows how India remains committed to multilateralism, while at the same time chalking its own path in the changing global order. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.